751-1041. All right, a lot of people have been holding on the phone. And first we will go and talk with Richard. Good morning, Richard. Welcome to 1041 The Truth. Hello? Richard,
Hello?
turn your TV or radio down.
Okay.
Or off.
Yes. This is Richard.
Hello, Richard.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Okay. My thing is, it just seems like you took it, you belittled this, you want to make the Skittles jokes, and
Right.
you want to put the hoodies up.
Right.
For me as a black person, this does affect my life because you brought up all the problems that Trayvon Martin had. I seen him with the marijuana lease by him, and there's a lot of kids in trouble. That doesn't mean at that time and point when he was walking to his father's fiance's house, that doesn't mean he had to be, why would they, he was murdered in that, even if he had a troubled past, that doesn't mean that you could just murder a person.
I never said that. I never said that. I never made that comment. I made real quick just to make a point. The Skittles and the hoodie thing I make fun of because the media has grabbed onto this, and it's a ridiculous thing to be focusing on. What Trayvon Martin was wearing on his head and what candy he happened to be eating should really had no bearing on this issue whatsoever, and yet everybody's grabbed onto it. And they've made and the media and everybody else has made a big joke about it. So I'm just perpetuating the joke the media did.
Okay, but there's other issues in this case where the police asked Zimmerman. They said, "Are you following this guy?" They asked him not to follow this young man anymore. So what happened to him after that? I mean, how is that self-defense when the police already told you not to have anything else to do with this guy? You've given us a description. Let the police handle it. And then in the end, he's not guilty, even though he was asked not to even follow this guy anymore. And so he gets injured in the process of doing what he was not asked. Then he ends up killing the guy, and then he gets off not guilty. I don't see how that's justifiable, and I don't see how you can think that's not important to them.
Well, it's not. Well, let me say this. Again, as somebody pointed out earlier, the jury basically just said that the prosecution's case wasn't solid enough to give him a conviction based off of what they presented. So they weren't okay. So, but with that being said, how does this case and the verdict in this case have any bearing on your everyday life? How are you going to be affected by this?
Man, and I don't, maybe I'm walking around with a hoodie on one late night, and so now people know maybe I'm in a neighborhood where they have night security. I don't know. It's just you don't have to worry about it. It's something that that affects me more than it's going to affect you.
I'm going to pretty much guarantee you, Richard, that the verdict in this case in this trial is going to have absolutely zero effect on your life whatsoever. Just because, look, even if Zimmerman were a racist and killed Trayvon Martin out of hatred, for as horrible as that would be, at the end of the day, people are killing people across this country for horrible reasons left and right that we don't even hear about. There are trials going on right now, and guess what? It has no bearing on your life. Neither does this verdict whatsoever. It's not going to affect you at all.
Going to affect me greatly. You remember
How?
the little
How?
This morning? Remember when you were talking about laying upside working on your air conditioner?
Right.
Well, when I was on top of my roof working on my old swamp cooler, man, it was late at night. It was a couple of weeks ago, and we had the extra heat, 110-degree days, and I'm up there working on my air conditioner with no shirt on, and I was questioned. I don't think a cop questioned you for working on your car. Well, they want to know what am I doing on my roof, and it's obvious I'm up there working on my cooler with no shirt on. I'm not a criminal. The criminals don't run around with no shirt, so I'm working.
So a conviction of George Zimmerman would have stopped that from happening.
No, but
of course not.
No, but it's the big picture.
But there is no. Look, race relations in this country are not going to change one iota because George Zimmerman happened to get a conviction if it went down that way. Nothing would have changed. Nothing would have changed.
No, nothing would have changed as far as my little comment to you, but it opens eyes and makes people think more. Maybe this is kind of an obvious thing, this guy up on the roof with no shirt on. It's not worth questioning. They wouldn't have questioned you. They didn't question you.
Well, you don't know. Look, that's completely circumstantial, and you don't know if that's the case. You just don't. You don't.
I understand. Okay, well, that's my comment.
All right, well, thanks for the call, Richard. I appreciate the conversation.
All right.
Let's go and talk with Eric. Good morning, Eric. Welcome to 1041 The Truth.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on what Richard just said.
Sure.
The Skittles jokes, that's inappropriate, John.
Why?
I listen to you every morning.
Why is it inappropriate?
I like this. It is, because a 17-year-old kid lost his life carrying that same bag of Skittles you're joking about.
Actually, it wasn't the same bag. It was a different. These were Bob's bag.
Saying, but you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean. And how would you like it if I was neighborhood watching, I followed your kids late at night or 7 o'clock at night in the rain, and then confront him after the police told me not to, and then end up killing him?
Of course I wouldn't like that.
Okay, so that's what everybody's talking about. So don't sit on the radio just because you have a platform to run your rhetoric
and make Skittles jokes.
That's right, because it's inappropriate and it's immature.
No, you know what's inappropriate and immature is the fact that the media has jumped on board talking about Skittles and some sort of relevancy to this case, and people wearing hoodies and politicians speaking in front of Congress putting hoodies up on their heads. That's what's inappropriate and wrong.
Because
it's ridiculous.
The reason for that is because part of the media feels like Trayvon Martin shouldn't have had a hoodie on at 7 o'clock at night in the rain. That's number one. Number two is politicians are standing up there. What?
I was saying it's not the people who would per se be on George Zimmerman's side, if you will, that are making the hoodie references. It's everybody on Trayvon Martin's side that are making the hoodie. Like him wearing a hoodie has any relevance.
The people that agree with George Zimmerman and what he did, I've listened on your show and I've heard other people comment, oh, well, he shouldn't have had a hoodie on.
Well, that's ridiculous. Look.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
Wait, has anybody, hold on one second. Hold on one second, Eric. Has anybody made that comment this morning that he shouldn't have had a hoodie on? Did I miss that? If they did, that was a dumb statement.
I'm talking about in prior conversations that I've heard.
Okay.
People have made that reference. One of the jurors on the jury stand asked the question of why is a 17-year-old kid out so late with a hoodie on?
Okay.
That's bias right there.
Well, maybe they had a good reason for that. Were you sitting in the courtroom? Did you watch all hours of the testimony?
I have a mind of my own. I've grown up in this
country. So let me ask you this, Eric.
And I've watched what's been going on.
Did you watch? Let me ask this straight up. Did you watch all of the coverage of this trial? Did you see every second of all the testimony that was given by both sides?
Everything that I was able to watch, yes, I have. I've watched a lot of it.
You watched a lot of it. Okay.
The tragedy is that there's a 17-year-old kid dead. Regardless whether he has Skittles or iced tea or a hoodie on, the man was told not to follow him. If I'm neighborhood watch and your kid is walking home, John, and I follow him, and then the police tell me not to follow him, and then I get out of my car and I follow him, Trayvon had every right to self-defense when George Zimmerman approached him. Just as much as self-defense George had, Trayvon had to invoke that first. Because here it is, we got strangers, we got people, sick wackos in this country kidnapping kids every day.
Eric, let me ask you something. Eric, a jury sat in that courtroom and listened to all the testimony presented to them, and they disagreed with your opinion on the case. Why did that happen in your opinion then? Why did that jury go and decide to acquit George Zimmerman after sitting in that courtroom and listening to all the testimony? Why?
I don't know. I wasn't in the jury room when it was delivered.
Then you know what? Then you really can't be commenting with your interjection of what went down in this particular circumstance, given the fact that you just said you didn't even watch all the testimony. So you weren't there in the courtroom. You didn't see everything that was presented.
Common sense, and real.
No, you're making assumptions. You're making assumptions. You're making assumptions.
If I follow some kid at 7 o'clock
it's assumptions. You weren't there. You weren't there. You weren't there.
Well, I'll tell you this. How about this then? So, all right, George Zimmerman got out and he followed Trayvon Martin and he confronted Trayvon Martin and Trayvon punched him in his face, right?
This is a completely irrelevant conversation. You weren't there and I wasn't there. A jury sat and heard all the testimony and decided to acquit him. End of story.
And every day I listen to you on the radio and you talk about different topics, Obama, Republicans, liberals, and you're not there for any of those things. And you're still commenting on them. And you're right there.
And I made a comment this morning that I don't know whether or not the jury made a right decision or not, because you know what? I wasn't a juror.
I'm just telling you, as a man and a person that has kids and a family, you should watch yourself when you make jokes, insensitive jokes, about somebody's child getting killed.
I did not make anything insensitive about Trayvon dying. I made jokes about the fact that there was...
There's a kid dead. And you talking about you wish you had a bag of
You know
Skittles.
what? Then get mad at the media and everybody
mad at
else
you.
who
I'm
went and
mad at
taped
you,
Skittles.
John.
Why?
I'm
Because
mad at you
because you
because
got to
you
be
told-
mad at somebody. Because you got to be
No,
mad
I'm
at
not
somebody.
gonna be mad
It
at
is.
somebody.
Yep, you
I'm
got
mad
to
at
be
you
mad at
because
somebody.
you are
So go
insensitive.
and talk about the talk show host.
A 17-year-old kid that's buried 6 feet under the ground.
It is
right now.
tragic
So it's something
that
you need
anybody
to think
died.
about.
It is absolutely tragic that anybody died. But you know
Okay,
what?
then
The
act like
focus
it.
on
Then
Skit.
act
No,
like it.
no,
Don't
I'm
make
not
it
going to.
mature
I'm not going
comment.
to because it's ridiculous that
All right,
people
so let
because.
somebody follow your kid at night and see how you feel.
Thanks for the phone call. I appreciate it. We done? We good? We good? Yeah, we're good because he hung up. They got to be mad at somebody. Get mad at the talk show host. Hoodies don't matter. That's that's what makes this whole thing so ridiculous. People just don't get it. Get mad at the talk show host for bringing up hoodies and Skittles and making jokes about it. Well, you know what? The tragedy and the joke is that any of those things were an issue in this case in the first place. The tragedy and the joke in all this is that this became a national news story. How many people have died at the hands of gun violence, if that's what you're worried about, since this whole thing happened? And yet we're talking about this one. 751-1041. Your phone call's coming up. Got to be mad at somebody. It's the John Justice Show on 1041 The Truth, Right Talk for Tucson.